Well, thank you for joining us today and welcome. My name is David Massat, and I'm the Supervisory Chief of the Regional Programs Unit for the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights.
Hi.
And the Committee Management Officer for the agency's 56 advisory committees. I appreciate your attendance today and your service to your advisory committee. So in this presentation, I will be discussing some expectations we have of you as advisory committee members, as well as sharing background information on the commission, roles and responsibilities of federal advisory committees, an overview of the project process that each committee will follow, and some frequently asked questions. The presentation should take about 30 minutes. Afterward, we will have a question and answer session with the remaining time. If you have questions that arise during the presentation, please put them in the chat, or you can jot them down to ask at the end of the presentation. We'll answer them all at the end so that we can get through the entire presentation without interruption. So we wanted to start with some basic expectations the Commission have of you as advisory committee members. First, you will be receiving frequent email correspondence from the assigned support specialists for your committee. Please respond. Even if the response is a simple no or I'm not available, that helps our staff spend less time tracking down an answer from you and greatly assists in the efficient scheduling of meetings. Second, we realize most of you are very busy professional people, but committees cannot be successful unless every member attends meetings and is a part of the decision-making process. You were all appointed because of the diverse views and experiences you bring to the committee, so the work will not be as complete without your active, constructive participation. Even if you feel like you cannot contribute subject matter advice, your active participation in the hearings and report drafting are crucial to our achieving the agency's mission. Your unique perspective may raise questions and points of inquiry that a member with more expertise on a topic would not consider. We can set the most perfect process for completing a project, but it all falls apart if you do not come prepared and participate. Third, as you will see, we only have 7 designated federal officers supporting 56 committees, and all meetings will be held virtually this fiscal year. Therefore, it is imperative that we utilize the technologies we have in order to complete projects as efficiently as possible. Please take time to get familiar with Monday.com, SurveyMonkey, and Zoom. Although we do not have IT support, you are free to reach out to our support specialists with questions. However, in some cases, the problems may arise from your network, in which case you will need to contact your network administrator for assistance. Fourth, we believe that one of our greatest assets is the fact that we attempt to include as many perspectives as possible in considering these complicated civil rights issues. It is statutorily required that your fellow members have diverse and divergent viewpoints and experiences, and the Commission encourages robust debate on the sometimes personal topics you will be studying. However, we hope you can keep the debates from becoming personal in terms of how you interact with each other. Furthermore, it is incredibly important for the mission of our agency that panelists and the members of the public who come to testify are treated with the utmost respect, even if you disagree with or are offended by what they are saying. Finally, a lot of work goes into organizing meetings to hear testimony and produce advisory committee reports. If you have the ability and time, we hope that you will be willing to roll up your sleeves and work beyond just attending meetings. Examples of how committee members can help are by conducting outreach to potential panelists, drafting or editing reports, site checking reports, and helping our support specialists identify locations or provide other logistical support for in-person meetings when and if they occur in the future. Although it is not something we want to use nor use often, but as a warning, if members repeatedly miss meetings, there is a mechanism to constructively resign those members. I will now provide you a brief background to the Commission and its advisory committees. To begin, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights is an independent, bipartisan fact-finding agency. We were first established under the Civil Rights Act of 1957. The mission of the agency is to inform the development of national civil rights policy and enhance enforcement of federal civil rights laws. The jurisdiction for both the Commission and its advisory committees is to study alleged deprivations of voting rights and alleged discrimination based on federally protected categories or in the administration of justice. We will return to the jurisdiction question in a later slide. Our current leadership consists of 8 bipartisan commissioners that are listed here. The commissioners serve 6-year staggered terms, so not all commissioners' terms expire at the same time to help ensure the agency's independence. The commissioners are the head of the agency, and your committee advice and recommendations will go through them. Here I'll share a few of the commission's responsibilities and authorities. First, in furtherance of its fact-finding duties, the commission holds hearings on topics of civil rights study. I'd like to note from the start that the commission is a study agency that gives advice on federal laws and policies. We are not an enforcement agency and have no enforcement authority. Other federal agencies have enforcement authority over specific civil rights protections and have their own civil rights offices where individual claims may be filed. So the commission is mandated by law to maintain 51 advisory committees in the 50 states and the District of Columbia. It additionally was asked by Congress to create an advisory committee in each of the 5 U.S. territories. These committees are made up of bipartisan persons to advise the commission on civil rights matters in their respective geographical jurisdiction. Members bring diverse experiences and viewpoints to the committee and serve without compensation. Now I discuss federal advisory committees. There are thousands of federal advisory committees across the federal government. They're established by statute, executive order, or by the federal agency itself for the purpose of obtaining advice or recommendations for the president, Congress, or federal agency within the scope of the agency's official responsibilities. The Federal Advisory Committee Act, otherwise known as FACA, is the legal foundation that defines how federal advisory committees operate, including your advisory committee. Here are a few policies that we have to follow under FACA. Committees must be fairly balanced in membership. Because our work relies so heavily on presentations that committees receive at their meetings, we extend this policy so that committees must seek balance and diversity of viewpoints when they hear testimony on any given civil rights topic they study. Meetings must be open to the public. Each committee meeting must be posted in the Federal Register 15 days prior to the committee meeting. Minutes must be kept for all meetings. We strongly encourage committees to elect a committee member to be the committee secretary, who is responsible for taking minutes for each meeting. Advice and recommendations can only be transmitted to the commission via committee reports. Committees can have subcommittees or working groups that prepare documents or other items for a committee meeting, but a subcommittee or group of committee members cannot provide advice or recommendations directly to the commission. Now I'll discuss the staff support provided to your committee. There shall be a designated federal officer to chair or attend each meeting of each advisory committee. The DFO, designated federal officer, is the administrative head of each committee. Because the commission appoints a committee chair and committees select vice chairs, as we will discuss soon, the DFO normally does not chair our committee meetings except in cases where there is no other option. Instead, the DFO will meet with the chair and executive team for that committee prior to the meetings to ensure that the process for conducting the meeting is understood. For example, how to conduct complex votes or how to ensure each member has ample time to ask questions of panelists during a briefing. However, it is also important to note that the DFO is not a member of the committee, but a federal employee, and under FACA, no agency employee nor any other special interest should inappropriately influence the advice and recommendations of your committee. If you believe your DFO or any other party is inappropriately influencing your committee decisions, please contact me immediately. Because most all committee meetings are conducted via Zoom, there is less likelihood that committees would need to be adjourned in the public interest, as they might be for in-person meetings where members of the public can potentially be disruptive, for instance. However, the DFO can mute lines or take other reasonable actions available on the Zoom platform to ensure the public interest is served during each virtual meeting. The DFO is responsible for calling meetings of the committee and will do so in coordination with the chair of the committee. The DFO can create with the chair and executive team the agenda for each committee meeting. The DFO's approval authority over the agenda might also mean that the DFO will add panelists to briefings if he or she believes the agency policy of hearing diverse testimony on a given topic is not being achieved, or if a particular perspective is not included. However, most often, the agenda will be determined by the committee in consultation with the DFO. I serve as the committee management officer of the agency. As the establishment of each committee has been determined by Congress, and you as committees determine the accomplishments vis-a-vis your advice and recommendations, my primary role is exercising control and supervision of the procedures your committees follow to achieve the mission of the agency. Although your DFO should be the first person you contact with any concerns, I'm always available and interested in your feedback on how we can better achieve our mission. I should also be the person you contact if you believe any concerns raised with the DFO have not been adequately addressed. After each project, I will be sending our satisfaction surveys and provide each of you an opportunity to share your experience and provide me with suggestions on how you think we could have done a better job or how we did a great job too. Now I want to introduce the staff of the Regional Programs Unit. First, our designated federal officers who, in addition to serving in their statutorily defined roles, also provide subject matter support in their role as civil rights analysts to each advisory committee and may draft proposals, memos, and reports for the committee. Under our project management system, as you will see, these individuals will be rotating through each committee during various stages of your project. They are not assigned to any specific committees, so you are likely to work with a number of these individuals throughout your 4-year term. So we have David Barreras in Chicago, Kayla Fajota in Honolulu, Anna Fortes is located in Oakland, Victoria Moreno is in Chicago, Brooke Peary is in Houston, Mallory Trachtenberg is in New Jersey, and Melissa Winarowski is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We also have dedicated committee support staff who are assigned to individual committees and will be the primary point of contact for you as you start your work. They are Evelyn Bohor in Denver, Corinne Sanders in Kansas City, Liliana Schiller in Chicago, who's with us today, Angelica Trevino in Los Angeles, and Sarah Villanueva in DC. I will now discuss the committee member roles. The chair of each committee is appointed by the commissioners. The most significant role of advisory committee chairs is conducting the meetings. The chair should be versed in parliamentary procedure, ensure all members and all viewpoints are given a fair opportunity to be heard, and ensure the committee's project moves forward without unnecessary delay. My team and I will be providing chairs with opportunities to attend trainings and workshops to support them in this role throughout the next few months. In the spirit of bipartisanship under which our committees operate, it is highly recommended that committees elect a vice chair for the committee who is the opposite party as the chair. Because you are oftentimes very busy professionals in addition to volunteer advisory committee members, it is fairly common that a chair cannot make a meeting at the last minute, and the vice chair steps in to conduct that meeting. Committees may also choose to elect other executive members. These individuals will be invited to preparatory administrative meetings with the DFO chair and vice chair. Possible roles for these members include a secretary to ensure minutes of meetings are completed, and a parliamentarian to assist the chair during meetings when a procedural question arises. We recommend that committees use Robert's Rule of Order, but the chair, executive team, and DFO can agree to alternative procedures. Viewpoints on ethics requirements. Generally, very few ethics issues arise because you serve as representatives, no longer as special government employees. However, some questions sometimes arise regarding lobbying and fundraising, which are prohibited during committee meetings, but members can engage in these activities outside of committee meetings. Members should be careful not to speak for the committee unless the committee has been made aware and approved, and members should never speak on behalf of the commission itself. You can list your membership on the committee as part of your overall bio during public speaking engagements. Other than official commission interns, we cannot accept volunteer work nor accept gifts while doing our work. Finally, contact your DFO, me, or the agency ethics officer, PLR McLaughlin, with any ethics questions if you are concerned about potential conflicts of interest. Now I'd like to introduce the project process that your committee will follow in order to achieve the mission of providing advice and recommendations to the commission. So we use a stage gate process that is broken up into 5 stages, with each stage preceding a potential gate where you may begin to work with a new DFO, or in some cases, pause your work until a DFO can become available. Each DFO is assigned 3 committees that are in stages 3 or 4, plus additional committees at the other stages. This is important because currently, if more than 18 committees are at either of those 2 stages, stages 3 or 4, then additional committees will have to wait at a gate until DFO capacity allows. We anticipate no committees being at a gate for more than 3 months, however. Generally, it takes anywhere from 12 months to 24 months to get from concept stage, where you choose a topic, to the post-report stage. This time frame is dependent on the topic of study, whether it is being done in support of one of the commission's projects for the fiscal year, the type of work product, and many other factors that go into the timeline, such as committee members' availability, staff availability, funding, just to name a few. I also want to mention that all committee meetings in fiscal year 2025 will be done via Zoom, including meetings where the committee hears testimony. So please keep that in mind when we talk about the work done in the meetings. So the concept phase normally takes anywhere from 2 to 4 months. This stage begins with your support specialist sending the committee members a project proposal prompt via SurveyMonkey for each of you to complete, the results of which will be shared with all members and discussed as a committee. This is not a very time-consuming task, but we feel it is important to ensure all committee members have an opportunity to have a voice in selecting a topic and that the committee is prepared to begin its work. Normally, the committee will have to narrow down all the topics by providing some initial research or other sources to help members get familiar with the topics proposed and ensure their viability. Factors to consider here are whether there are sufficient and available panelists to present, whether there is bipartisan support for studying the topic, and whether the topic is sufficiently narrow. These types of issues may doom a project from the start, and we do not want to waste agency resources with failed project topics. Sometimes, to better understand the viability of a topic, committees will invite bipartisan subject matter experts to present their perspectives about the topic and help members decide on whether it is viable. It is worth spending a little extra time at the concept stage to ensure the project topic is one that can be completed. At this stage, the voting process can also be quite complicated, so it is important that the process is decided early and that all committee members are clear on the process and have the same expectations. Your DFO will be helpful in this regard. Next, the committee will then move to the proposal stage. This stage normally takes only 1 to 3 months. The DFO will draft the project proposal, although in some cases a committee member or committee subgroup will draft the proposal if so determined by the full committee. The proposal must include background information, the jurisdictional nexus, and a timeline. Possibly most important, it should also include the scope of the study, as these proposals will be made available to panelists who will tailor their presentations to addressing the scope of the project that the committee determines. The committee will vote to approve the proposal at a public business meeting. So in the implementation stage, committees plan both the logistics and substance of the meetings where testimony will be received. Since the reports are committee projects, we gather as much data as possible through meetings where the committees can hear testimony and engage presenters with questions. In addition, FACA requires that the public have an opportunity to provide comment at committee meetings. Logistically, the committee discusses how to best receive testimony from experts, government officials, other stakeholders, and members of the public directly impacted. It's important to note that historically, advisory committees were created so that individuals directly impacted by the particular civil rights topic of study had a platform to tell their story to a federal entity. This can sometimes be very difficult, but we ask committees to work diligently to continue these outreach efforts to communities that are directly impacted. Substantively, the important thing in this project stage is to have meaningful discussions about the possible presenters so that you receive diverse and balanced testimony. Committee members are responsible for identifying who they would like to hear from, so I cannot stress enough how important your involvement is in this process. It is best to have too much testimony to ensure as many viewpoints as possible are included than to cut this stage short. Remember also that DFOs are instructed to use their power to call meetings and improve agendas to ensure as many viewpoints as possible are included. Committee members can also introduce secondary sources into the record for committee consideration if the participation of authors at a committee meeting is not possible. Once the committee receives as much testimony as reasonably possible, the report phase begins. It is crucial that members stay involved throughout the stage as everyone's opinions and conclusions are crucial and valuable for the report. The full committee will be listed as the authors of the report, so I encourage you to review, edit, and comment on the drafts and engage in discussions throughout the stage. After collecting all the testimony, committee members review the transcripts. As a best practice, primarily to ensure that deadlines are kept, the DFO will draft a section on committee conclusions based upon committee input that reflects some of the themes and findings presented during the hearings and briefings. The committee must review, deliberate upon, edit, and approve of this first working draft. It is not intended to be a final draft or to influence any decisions of the committee. During a number of subsequent committee meetings, members play the crucial role of reviewing and providing decisions on each element of drafts of the report. Alternatively, if the committee decides a member or working group should do the initial drafting, that can also be an option. Regardless, the recommendations for each report should be drafted during committee meetings by the committee or delegated to committee members or to the DFO to provide a draft of those recommendations. Crucial step is that the committee determines the recommendations it wants to make to the commission. Once the committee has completed meaningful discussion and deliberation on the report or memo, committee members will vote. The DFO will send it up for an internal legal sufficiency review, but we ask committee members to spend time to ensure that the report is within the scope of the project proposal, the recommendations are substantiated by testimony heard, that legal citations are correct, and that any person or organization that might feel defamed or degraded has had an opportunity to respond. The more quality a committee spends on these matters, the quicker the report will be published on the commission website. Members who voted against the report may submit a dissenting statement. There is no limit to the number of pages, but any dissent must be submitted within 14 days of the committee's vote to approve the report. This is an agency rule voted upon by the commissioners, so I cannot offer exceptions to this rule. In addition, members who vote in favor of a report may also submit a concurring statement if there are elements of the report that they disagree with or recommendations that they do not believe were stated strongly enough, for example. We recognize that although we strive for consensus, some issues may present committees with conflicting civil rights concerns or priorities where agreement is seemingly impossible, or the project itself gets bogged down in conflict over an issue or issues. Staff are working on various ways of incorporating these points of conflict into the committee report, because oftentimes understanding where the disagreement exists is as important as understanding where the agreement exists for policymakers. We encourage you all to work with your DFOs on drafting these reports in a way to be most constructive and informative. The last step is the post-report stage, which will involve a number of items. First, the DFO will draft a policy brief that will summarize some of the key findings of the report in a 1 to 2 pager that can be easily shared. Second, a press announcement will be sent to our public affairs office to announce the report on our website. And third, notices of the report will also be posted on our social media platforms. In addition, the committee chair will be invited to present the report at a commission business meeting. Finally, the committee will also have at least one meeting to discuss any other strategies for increasing the impact of the report. Now that you're aware of the project process, I'll be going over the advisory committee's jurisdiction in a little more detail. We've put together a flow chart to help committees identify whether a topic of interest is within our jurisdiction. Starting with the gold box at the top, the first question to ask is, does the issue involve an alleged deprivation of the right to vote? If the answer is yes, a committee can move forward into the proposal stage because this is a core responsibility of the commission stated directly in our statute. If it is not, then we have to ask, does the issue concern matters related to discrimination or disparate impact? If yes, you will also have to address whether it impacts any of the federally protected categories. When a federally protected category is identified, the topic is within the jurisdiction of the commission. If there is no concern related to discrimination or disparate impact based upon the federally protected categories, the committee can then ask whether the issue related to equal protection of the laws in the administration of justice. There are different interpretations of what this question means, so most likely committees that reach this question will have the topic reviewed by the Office of General Counsel, but the committee should articulate how it believes the topic is within the commission's jurisdiction nonetheless. If committees answer no to any of these questions, the committee may want to consider a different topic. However, we can send any issue up to our General Counsel's office to determine whether it is an issue the committee can study. And we generally don't want to get to this point, but if needed, the OGC is there to provide guidance on how to potentially rephrase proposed topics so that it could be within the jurisdiction. I want to go over a few frequently asked questions. How often can advisory committees meet? So advisory committee meetings are limited, as we mentioned, by the DFO capacity and availability, the FACA requirement of posting notices 15 days in advance, and for if we have in-person meetings in the future, budgeting concerns, which we can discuss later. What is the quorum for advisory committee meetings? Under the Code of Federal Regulations, the quorum for meetings where committees make decisions is 5. To hear testimony, the quorum is 3. Can advisory committees study more than one issue at a time? No. I instruct the DFOs to only support one project per advisory committee at a time. And this again, just because we have 56 committees and 7 DFOs, it's just impossible to do more than one at a time. How is the success of an advisory committee defined? Well, under federal rules, success is measured by the number of recommendations that an advisory committee makes to the commission that are implemented through actions of the commission or by the commission forwarding the recommendations to the relevant agency or body. Will the advisory committee reports and advisory memos really impact laws and policies? Well, in part, it is dependent upon the work the committee does in the post-report stage that we described earlier. But just last week, after a considerable effort by the District of Columbia Advisory Committee, their report on accessing services for students with disabilities in DC public schools was cited as the basis for the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights to initiate an investigation of DC public schools. The bipartisan effort of the committee was exemplary and has had a clear impact. Where can I see past advisory committee meeting minutes and recent advisory committee reports to the commission? I mentioned earlier that under FACA guidelines, we are required to make public all meeting records, and they are all available on the specific advisory committee webpage. The most recent reports are also found on the committee webpages. Older reports can be found on the commission's archives page or at the Thurgood Marshall Library. So takeaways. The mission of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights is to inform the development of national civil rights policy and enhance enforcement of federal civil rights laws. The role of the advisory committees is to advise the commission on matters pertaining to the denial of the right to vote and discrimination or denials of equal protection of the laws because of the federally protected categories or in the administration of justice. Advisory committees must adhere to the Federal Advisory Committee Act, which defines how federal advisory committees operate. And the advisory committee civil rights project process is a stage gate process that generally takes anywhere between 12 to 24 months and must be within USCCR jurisdiction. So all committee meetings are done via Zoom. And please follow us on social media. You'll see updates from the commission on activities, reports, upcoming hearings, upcoming advisory committee briefings, and official statements. As a committee member, please feel free to share and promote any of your committee meetings information and the commission's work on your social media accounts. Finally, please let us know if you have any questions or feedback on the orientation or have other concerns. You have my contact information here. And this concludes the orientation. So, oops. Do we have any questions in the chat, Liana? We'll start with the chat questions, and then we can open up for questions that you may have and write in the chat afterward.
Yeah, so we had one question come in during the presentation. It was, how are the chairs selected?
Just as the committee members are selected by the commissioners themselves. You may remember on the application, there was a question whether you were interested in serving on as the chair, and then if so, what your background as being a chair was, and so that's what they look at.
Great. We have another question asking if members can get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. And David, if you don't mind, I can answer that question. So yes, you should have received an invitation to join your state's Monday.com public board. And the presentation is available there. We'll also make this recording available to everyone there. And we'll provide additional materials on that page as well. So you'll be able to access a sample of the project proposal prompt that David reviewed in the stage gate process, as well as additional information throughout your term. So if you did not receive an invitation to that page, you can email me and I can work with your support specialist to make sure that you do have an invite to that page. Or if you would like an email directly with the PowerPoint presentation, let me know and I'll pop my email in the chat. Next question, is all work state specific?
Yes, or district or territory, yes. Great.
Where can we find copies of the rules of parliamentary procedure?
We don't have a formal one ourselves. I mean, some committees will use Robert's rule. That's obviously the most common one, which you can probably get like a little handy cheat sheet online, I imagine. If chairs are, I think actually I could do a spoiler alert. I believe it's April. Well, it's in April. I don't have the date off the top of my head. We'll be getting information, the chairs, on a chair training. They call it like a chair 101. And we could talk more about procedures at that meeting with the chairs. But members also should just be familiar with just general how to make a motion, seconds, things like that. If the chair and DFO decides that that's how they're going to conduct the meetings.
Okay, we have one more question in the chat, and then I do see that we have a member who's raised their hand. So the question in the chat says, in the wake of challenges to DEI, are we hearing anything about the status of the existence of the commission or its affiliated state committees?
I missed the very beginning of that question, Liliana. Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, no problem. In the wake of challenges to DEI, are we hearing anything about the status of the existence of the commission or its affiliated state committees?
No, I mean, the commission's been around since 1957 via statute. We still exist. The DEI executive order went to initiatives and policies that were started the last administration. Those initiatives and policies have stopped, but that they really had nothing to do with the work of the advisory committees.
Okay, so I do see that Sonia Khan has raised her hand.
Hi, thank you so much. Actually, Tamara, I hope I'm saying your name right. Took my question because I do know that there are some executive orders that are, or some executive actions that are older than 1957 that have been revoked. So it would be helpful to know sort of like what the status is, considering just how volatile the environment is right now, for us as members, what to expect if we could be impacted at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to answer that. We're obviously just moving forward, one day at a time. Things can change tomorrow. I know I can tell you the commission has projects planned. And again, they're a bipartisan commission, but they have projects planned through, fiscal year 26. So yeah, I mean, yeah. We
I get it. And
yeah, so
we're sending good vibes, okay?
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Yeah. Sorry, see, I think did that have a question in the chat or that's just a comment?
It looks like it's just a comment.
Just comment.
Thanks, Beth.
Yeah, thanks, Beth. If committee members have additional questions, you can either use the raise hand feature, which is located at the bottom of your screen, or you can continue putting things in the chat and I'm able to read them out for everybody.
We're getting good at this, Liliana. Everyone understands everything, huh? But if there's no other questions, that's fine. We can stop here. Let you get on with your day. We appreciate you taking the time to be here. As Liliana mentioned, not only will the slides, but I think recordings of this will be available on the Monday board. And if you've not gotten your invitation, please let Liliana know so that you can get your invitation out. And then just, it's a pretty self-explanatory, but, we understand new technologies. It takes a little getting used to, but that'll be a huge resource for you. Not only will be used for resources like, the handbook and orientation, but oftentimes once committees get going, they'll put suggestions for articles that, other committee members might want to share or, encourage others to read. It might include recommendations for panelists. So it's a pretty handy resource to share information instead of just kind of bombarding everybody with emails. It's also easier just to keep it all in one location instead of like trying to search for emails. So so please get familiar with that. And yeah, always reach out to me if you have any other questions or any concerns going forward. Good luck to you and your committees. Really look forward to seeing the work that you do. Thank you all.